All right, hello once again. Welcome. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been doing some introductory videos for the online AWD Application and Web Development 1100 C# programming class for the spring 2024 semester. And really, I've been doing videos based on the PowerPoint slides that come with the text, and you will get a copy of these slides as well. All right, I'm up to Chapter 4 of 22, how to work with numeric and string data, and it's definitely the longest. There's 67 slides, so this will be probably the longest video out of the ones so far. You've been warned. So as we take a look, we've got our objectives. Given an arithmetic expression and the value for variables, evaluate said expression. Use numeric and string data to be able to declare and initialize variables and constants. Code arithmetic expressions and assignment statements. Use static methods of the math class. Generate a random number. Cast and convert data from one type to another. Use the scope for your variables. Declare and use enumerations. And work with nullable value reference types. And reference types, the null coalescing operators and the null forgiving operator. I want to quickly just whip through this. And there's a reason I'm doing this, not to waste my time or yours. I wanted to see if there's actually a program that's being shown in here that we're going to create. And we've got this same one, this invoice total. So we'll go back to that one later. That's totally fine. And we're going to enhance it, it looks like. That looks fine too. So we'll go back and do that. All right, but before we do all that, okay, I'm going to go and create a new program, and I'm going to create it twice. I'm going to create it once as a console app and then recreate it as a GUI or graphical user interface app. All right. And we're going to be working with that one as we go on as well. So distinguish between a variable and a constant and talk about naming conventions for either or both. Describe the int, double, decimal, bool, and string types. Describe the terms literal value, null value, empty string, concatenate, append, escape sequence, string literal, verbatim string literal, raw string literal, and nullable data type. Describe the order of precedence for arithmetic expressions. Distinguish between implicit casting and explicit casting. Distinguish between a value type and a reference type. Describe how casting can be used to convert data from one form to another. And finally, describe the differences between class scope and method scope. Now, here's some of the keywords we're going to go over, but this is what I'm going to do first. I'm going to come in and I'm going to create a new folder. This was that one that we did from before, this Chapter 3. Hopefully the one that I changed was this one. I think it is. But I'm going to create a new folder. And I'm going to call it Payroll. All right, so I created a new folder called Payroll. Why did you do that, Jeff? I'm going to show you that right now. So I'm going to start up a new instance of Visual Studio. And I'm going to create a new project. And it will be a console app.NET framework. So next. And I'll call this one Payroll Payroll Console Chapter 4. Let's call it 04. All right, and we're going to put it into the folder that is called Payroll. And the solution name will just be Payroll, period. All right, so Payroll. And I'm going to click Create. Hopefully I created the right one. We'll know in about 15 seconds, not even. There you go, and it's correct. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a comment in here. In fact, let's We'll do it like this. That's fine. And I'm going to just put in here, this will be a simple payroll, a simple C# payroll application. We will be adding to this application as the textbook goes on. For this first iteration, all right, we will simply ask the user for his or her first name, last name, hours worked, and we're going to put in there that those hours worked have to be between 0 and 84, and hourly rate. And we're going to put in there that that has to be between 0 and 99.99. All right? And we will use numeric variables. How about this? We will use string variables for the names, numeric variables for the hours worked, for the hours and rate. All right. Let's see. We will also use constants for hours and rate. There. Okay? And just put that in just so you had something that was up here. Now, to keep this simple, all right, and I'm going to even say that, to keep this simple, all constants and all variables will be global. In, just global, that's fine. Okay, so let's start, and we're going to start by coming in here, and after it says internal class program, I'm going to declare and initialize my program constants. All right, and I'm going to have 4 of them, and they will be const, decimal. Now in this language, it's kind of unwritten that you make your constants uppercase. So I'm going to call this min hours, and I'm going to set that equal to 0m. I'm going to have another constant that's going to be max hours, and I'm going to set that equal to 84.0m. So the most hours you can work, are 84, and the least hours you can work are 0. In the same way, I'm going to have a const decimal min rate, and I'm going to set that equal to 0.0m. Now you'll notice it automatically reformats it, so I've got to manually do this if I want stuff to line up. And we'll have const decimal max rate, and that'll be equal to 99.9999m. So again, we are assuming here that a person works between 0 and 84 hours, that they're paid between 0 and 99.99. These are just arbitrary values I'm coming up with. We could have used anything, but these are the ones I'm using. All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to write 4 different routines from main here. I'm going to write down input first name. All right, that hasn't been written yet, so I'm going to get an error. Input last name, input hours worked. My clock is going to go off, so let me stop it here. All right, and then input hourly rate. Whoops. And then we'll have calculate gross pay. Okay? And we may add more stuff onto this. We will in later chapters. Okay? So these are our program constants. And a constant is just a special type of variable. But the difference is constants cannot change once they've been set. Variables can. So I'm going to come in here now and I'm going to declare, if I can spell, and initialize my program variables. All right. So right here, I'm going to have string first name, and I'm going to set it equal to what's called the empty string. There's nothing in there. String last name, and that'll be the empty string as well. String hours, let's just call it hours is fine. And that'll be 0. No, that's not a string, I'm sorry. That'll be a decimal, hours, and that'll be equal to 0.0m. And another decimal, I spelled it right, decimal called rate, that'll be equal to 0.0m. All right, those are my variables. These can't change. These will change or could change, conceivably, as the program goes on. All right, so there's all that. Okay, now let's see. Let's start writing these routines then. So here's input first name. So I'll have here private void input first name. Now, as soon as I put that in, my error will go away here. Oh, it should have. Let's see, private void input first name, and it says here, oh, it's got to have the word static there. In fact, I can leave it as private. That's fine, but I'll put static in front of it. There. Now that error went away. I'm going to copy this, and now I'm going to put in input last name. And you'll notice that error went away. I haven't put any code in yet. I will in a minute. And I have another one. Well, this is going to be input hours. Hours worked. And finally, I'll have this one, which will be input hourly rate. All right, now I should have no errors here. Oh, I didn't do my calculate gross pay yet, so sorry. Static void calculate static private void calculate gross pay. Now it should be showing me no errors, and it's not. But if I run the program right now, absolutely nothing will show on the screen. Okay, because I don't have any code in here to do these things. All right, so input the first name. Well, we've got a variable called first name. All right, now you're going to hear some stuff in here that you're going to forget, and it's to be expected. Okay, I can come in here and I can write console.write enter your first name, and that's totally fine to do. Totally fine. I'm not getting any errors, but I'm going to be writing console all over the place, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to remove the console dot, and it'll immediately give me an error. It says, I don't know what write means. So I've got to come in up at the top here, and I'm not going to use any of these. I'll leave my using system in there, but I'm going to put in here using static system dot console. Now notice after I put that in, first of all, it's not gray. Second of all, the error went away. All right. So it says enter your first name. Now I can say read line, first name equal read line. Oops, not input first name, just first name. First name equal read line. Now what doesn't it like here? First name, string first name. First name equal read line. Now what's the problem? Let's see. An object reference is required. This is interesting. String first name equal nothing. These should all be static as well. I'm sorry. Constants do not have to be made static up here, but variables do. We will go over what all that stuff means at a different time, not this second. So now that error is gone. Okay? Now I'm going to do the same thing here. Whoops. But instead of saying enter your first name, I'm going to say enter last name. And last name equal read line. All right. Now, if I ran the program right now, it would ask me to do both of these. And I'll tell you what I'll do is I'll come in here right now. I will just write this. I'm going to write read line, which will stop the program from running. Okay, I just want to show you that right now it will work. So if I save this, it says enter your first name. So if I put Jeff, enter your last name, and I put Scott, now it's waiting. Okay? Now, that's not really doing much of anything, but you get the idea. Let's put a space after enter your first name. In fact, let's put a tab there. And we'll put a tab in after enter your last name. All right? So we've got this. And just to show you, it'll look a little nicer now. So enter your first name. You can see there's a tab there. So Jeff, enter your last name, Scott. Okay? Okay. Next, we're going to say this, but we're going to have to make some changes in here. All right. So here we'll say enter your hours worked. All right. But if we put in here hours equal read line, we're going to get an error. Because hours is a number, and this is expecting not a non-numeric value. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to convert this, whatever we put in here, into a decimal. And we can type in convert dot decimal dot to decimal read line. Now the program is going to blow up. The program is going to blow up if we put something in here that's either non-numeric or we put something in here, just leave it empty. It's going to blow up. I'm not going to show you that now, but just so you know. All right? But what I want to do is, for right now at least, I'm not going to account for anything in here going wrong. All right? I want to say that again. I'm going to assume that nothing is going to go wrong in here. So this will be enter your hourly rate. And this will be rate. All right. Then finally, for calculating the gross pay, we'll put in here, did we make a variable for gross pay? We did not. So let's make one. Static decimal gross equals, again, 0.0 m. And again, we'll move it over. All right. Now I'll say gross equal hours times rate. Okay. Then let's write one more routine here that's called print out employee info. Okay. We'll write that last. That'll be down here. So static void, I forgot the word private, void, print out employee info, and I'm going to put here employee name, oops, right, employee name, T, and we will put in here plus first name plus a blank space plus last name. So for instance, if I put in Jeff Scott, that should put in employee name tab Jeff space Scott. All right. And here we'll put in hours worked. Let's put a space in here. Kind of adds up now. So hours worked. And we're going to come in here and we're going to say hours, but we're going to say dot toString N2. That'll make it 2 decimal places. Here we're going to put hourly rate. All right, again, I'm just trying to line stuff up so it looks a little nicer. Probably won't line up correctly anyway, but that's okay. And up here, I forgot to put in another parenthesis, an ending parent. So right here, this will say rate dot toString, and that's a dollars and cents figure. So I'll say C, and we need another parent again. And finally, I'll do a write. And it'll say total gross. Again, I'm just trying to line stuff up a little bit here. And this will be gross dot toString. Okay, just like that. And when I get done, I'm going to do a read line so that the program stops. Okay, that's it. That's all I've got so far. And I'm going to run this and then go back and explain everything I just did. All right, enter your first name, Jeff. Enter your last name, Scott. Enter your hours worked. Okay, I don't need right there. I'm up here, I'm going to add another \T so that these line up. So I'll say I worked 50 hours and I make $10 an hour. All right. Jeff Scott, 50, 10, 500. Everything worked. Now I got to fix the formatting, but we'll do that next. So this, and this. Let's do those first. So we'll need another \T here and here. And I think it was here. All right. Oh, that wasn't there. I'm sorry. Let me get rid of all those. All right. That was enter your first name, enter your last name, enter your hours worked, and your hourly rate. I think those were okay. Let's look. So enter your first name. I'm just trying to line this up so it looks a little nicer. Jeff Scott, 50. So I need to move that over 1, 10, and then we'll fix the other ones. Okay. So this one, hourly rate, we do need another one here. All right, now we're going to print this stuff out. But we want each of these to be on their own line. So instead of saying write, I'm going to say write line, which means when you get done writing it, go to the next line. All right, so let's take a look at what we have now. Enter your first name, Jeff. Enter your last name, Scott. Enter your hours worked, 50. The amount you made, 10. Okay, now I can move all this stuff over as well, but you get the idea. Jeff Scott, 50, 10, 500. It is working. All right, let's try to put 2 more tabs in here just to pretty line everything up. Let's see if that does it. Hours worked. Oh, let's get that back again. Employee name, yeah, that works. Okay, so we will add 2 more into each one of these. Now again, I'm writing this under the guise that it's not going to fail. If I put something non-numeric in when it expects a number, it's going to fail. That's okay. All right, so enter your first name, John. Last name, Doe. How many hours? 40. How much do you make an hour? $25. All right, so there you go. John Doe, 40, $25, and 1,000. I'm going to put a blank space in between these 2 lines here. In fact, 2 blank spaces by putting in here \n for a new line, \n. We're going to run it 1 more time. Then we're going to go back over the entire program. Jane Doe. Jane worked 50 hours and makes $30 an hour. There you go. All right, so let's look at everything that we've got in here. First, let me check my time. I'm fine. All right, so from the top. These are constants. We're not using them in this program. We will later. I wanted to show you how you declare a constant and the fact that when you declare it, you must give it an initial value which is not changeable in this language most of the time. We'll get to that in a much later chapter. So you have to work between 0 and 84 hours. Why 0? What if you were sick that week? What if you were on vacation that week, etc.? Pay rate, 0 to $99.99. Again, these are arbitrary values. What about 0? Well, what if you didn't work that week, or what if you're a volunteer? All right, then we've got a first name. So these are unchangeable after we set them. These are changeable. Since these are unchangeable, we don't need the word static, but since these are, we do need the word static. It's just kind of a rule or something that you'll have to get familiar with, for lack of better words. So this will be the person's first name, their last name, the hours that they worked, what they make per hour, and what their gross is, which will be hours times rate. We're not checking to make sure that what gets put in here is valid or not. We're just assuming that it is. Then what I'm doing in main is, rather than writing all the information in here, I'm writing a different routine to do everything. So I'm writing a total of 6 routines. 4 to input my first name, last name, hours worked, and hourly rate. 1 to calculate the gross pay, and 1 to print out everything. And you'll notice again, if I were to leave this blank, it'll set up a first name of blank. If I left this blank, it'll set up a last name of blank. If I leave this blank, it'll blow up because it's expecting a number. And if it tries to convert something non-numeric into a number, it breaks. Same with this one. All right. This is just simple math, hours times rate. And this is just printing everything out. So I'd like to go back and very, very quickly rewrite this as a GUI app. All right. We're going to rewrite everything that you see in there as a GUI app. All right. So let me do a file, save all. And I'm going to close this. And I'm going to come in and right mouse click on my solution name and do add, new project. It will be a Windows Forms app. And I'm going to call this one, we call the other one Payroll Console, Chapter 4. This will be called Payroll, I'll just call it GUI for Graphical User Interface. Payroll GUI, Chapter 04. All right, and click Create. And there it is. Again, we're going to keep this simple. Okay. I am going to come in and do a few things here, such as I'm going to change the name of the form. I'm going to rename it as FRM Chapter 04 Payroll. Okay, it says you're renaming it. You want to change everything related to it. There isn't anything yet, but sure, yes. All right, so it changed that. Oh, and that should have been a lowercase h, not a capital H. And it'll change both of them. There we go. Now, this is the file I use, this CS file. This is a system file. This is where that wiring that we talked about in an earlier chapter is going to take place. Almost always, you don't want to jack with that. Just take my word for it. You don't want to jack with that. All right, so I'm going to build something quickly here. And it says Form 1 here. Let's change what's in there. We'll put in here Payroll Application dash Chapter 04. And there that is. Okay, now let's put in 4 text boxes. And that's going to be the information that we're going to be entering in. So, in fact, let's do our buttons first. We'll have a calculate button down here. I'm going to make 3 of them. We're going to have a calculate button, a clear button, and an exit button. Okay? So let's come up here. We'll do all of this at the end. So let's come up here and let's make 5 text boxes. All right. So there's my first one. And I'm going to put it about there. Put it here. And let's make 5 of these. These are going to be for my first name, my last name, my hours worked, my hourly rate, and my gross pay. All right. So next, let's go to the labels, and we'll just put in 1 for now. All right. In fact, let's move these over. I think they'll be fine about here. Okay. And then for this label, I'm going to go to my auto size, set it to false. All right. And I'm going to move that over like this. I don't want them to touch, but almost to touch. That's good enough right there. And copy 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's change the back. Let's start by changing the background color here. I don't like that gray. It just makes it hard to see what's going on here. Let's try that purple. All right, there's purple. And let's make these a darker purple. Now, what's going to happen is that gets kind of hard to read. So we're here, we change the background color. Let's change the foreground color. And let's make that white. And you see we now have white labels. All right. Now I'm going to highlight everything in here. I can either hold down on my left mouse button and drag, or I can click anywhere in here, do a Control A. All right. And I'm going to change the size of everything that I have in here to make it 20 bold Arial. All right. Okay, that's looking a little more like the way I want it to look. Now, a couple things. I'm going to move this over just a bit. I'm going to move this over just a bit. Come on. I will in a second. These look like they could be a little wider. Yeah, I know that sometimes happens when you do this, so I'm just going to do one of them here. All right. I'll do them one at a time, or I could have just taken the one I did and copied it. There's a lot of ways that this can be done. Now this first one looks a little chunkier than the rest. There. In fact, let's look. So the size of this one is 241.35. Now they're the same. And they're the same. And that is 241.35. And so is that. All right, so I now have my interface in place. So let's do a Control A again, and let's lock the interface into place. There it is. It's locked. All right. So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to put the text in there. Will be first name in just a second, but it'll be LBL first name. Let's change the name of everything first. This will be LBL last name. This will be LBL hours worked. This will be LBL hourly rate. This will be LBL gross pay. All right. This will be TXT first name. TXT last name. TXT hours worked. TXT hourly rate. And TXT gross pay. All right, now let's change these. This first button will be BTN calculate. And let's just put the word calculate in there right away. And like before, we'll put underscore CALCULATE, so you've got the underscore there. This one will be clear, so we'll make the name BTN clear. And we'll put in for the text C&LEAR. So we've got that. And then finally here, this will be exit. And of course, the name then will be BTN exit. All right, let's fix the wordage in here. So this one will be first name. All right, this will be last name. Hours worked. Hourly rate. Gross pay. And again, just to do something different, before we write justified these, let's center all these right there. So they're all highlighted. And I'm going to go over to text align here, and I'm going to choose right in the middle. There. All right. I also want these centered. So I highlight all of them, and I go to text align, and I choose center. All right. Now I want to be able to write in there a first name, a last name, an hours worked, and an hourly rate, but I don't want to be able to add a gross pay. I want that to be calculated for me. So I'm going to make that one a read-only field. Okay. All right. In just a moment, we'll put in the code. But before we do, I'm going to go back to the other program that we wrote previously, because there's a few things I can grab here, such as I can grab that comment. It's the same thing. So I'm going to put the comment in here. And again, I'll put it right near the top. Right there. All right, again, there's a lot of stuff in here I don't need. You do need the using system.windows.form. I like to leave in the using system. All right. Probably could get away without putting that in. All right, now I'm also going to go back here, and I'm going to steal, kind of, the constants and the variables. Just like that. Whoops, try that again. All right, so let's go back. So again, we want to put in here, okay? And you can put it anywhere, but I'm going to put it right here. So there's our constants. You set them up the same way, whether it's a GUI program or a console program, okay? Now, what do we got left in here? I don't know if we're going to use any of this, so I'm just going to close that for now. All right. And now, calculate. Well, that's going to be when I want to calculate. This will be when I want to clear. And this will be when I want to exit. Okay? So we'll put in a little bit of documentation here. In fact, I should have in the last program and didn't. All right. I'll put this executes when the calculate button is clicked. Okay. This executes when the clear button is clicked. And this executes when the exit button is clicked. All right. Now, I'm going to go back because earlier we wrote that thing in here a while back. Where is it? In our FRM total file here, we wrote that exit routine right there. So I'm going to steal that. I'm stealing my own code. So I'm going to put that in for my exit. But, all right. Again, I'm starting to teach you modularity from the get-go. So I'm going to call exit program or not. All right, then right below that, I'm going to write private void exit program or not. And I'm going to paste that in. So we now should have a working exit button. Let's check. Now, we have to tell the program that we want it to run this file. So I'm going to right mouse click on here and choose right here and choose set as startup project. So let's do that. It's not going to be centered or anything else. I don't care. But if I click exit, there we got it. Do you want to exit? If I say no, I stay there. If I say yes, it's now exiting. That's good. All right, so we've got that done. So in here, let's call clear the form. Okay, which we don't have written yet, so let's write right here, private void clear the form. And what do we want to do when we click the clear button? We want to clear this, clear this, clear this, clear this, clear this, and put our cursor right there. All right, so let's do that. So txt first name dot text equals, now you can put in this, that's what I use, but you can also put in string dot empty. To me, that's why put in all that typing when you don't have to. But you can put that in as well, and it'll work just fine. I like to put in double quote, double quote. All right, txt last name dot text equals double quote, txt hours worked dot text equals double quote, txt hourly rate dot text equals double quote, txt gross pay dot text equals double quote, and finally txt first name dot focus. That should be everything. Let's line it up so it looks nice and pretty. You don't have to do that, of course. So let's see if this clear is working. So file, again, I'm going to do a save all here and run the program. All right, let's just put garbage in here. It doesn't matter what we put in. Okay, that's all working. Our exit's working and our clear is working. That's a good start. All right. Now, so what's left? Well, we have nothing in this calculate right now. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to introduce a new kind of variable to you right now. And this new kind of variable is known as a Boolean variable, which means it can be true or false. And I'm going to do this. Bool, I'm going to call it keep going. In other words, do I want to keep going in the program? And I'm going to set that equal to true. All right. Now I'm going to say if our text box, txt first name dot text equals nothing if it's empty. So if there's nothing in there, we left it empty. If that's the case, we're going to print out an error message telling them you got to enter a first name. Then we're going to quit. We're going to do the same thing for each one of the 4 fields that we're inputting. First name, last name, hours worked, hourly rate. So I'm going to write a global routine down here at the bottom that I'm just going to call show message. Okay? And it'll have in there a string for the message, and it'll have another string for the title. All right? And what it's going to do is, let's put void in here. All right? It's going to say this, message box dot show, and it's going to show my message, and it's going to show my title. All right? And it's also going to have an icon and it's going to be error because it's going to be some kind of an error the user made. We're going to have just a button in here that's going to just say okay because you screwed up. All right. And then finally, oh, what else do we need? Do we need anything else? I think that'll probably be enough. Let's see. We'll see in a minute. All right. So message box.show. What doesn't it like here? Oh, these two are flipped. Sorry, it's expecting it in a certain order. There we go. Okay, semicolon. All right, and if you say, I don't have any idea what that just did, you're going to see it in just a moment, I promise, okay? All right, so I don't need this, just need a comma there. There we go. All right, so what I'm going to say is, if this is empty, I want to show message. I want the message to say, you must enter a first name. Okay, my title will be, and I like to put my titles in capital letters, no first name input. Okay, that's all I need. Now I'm going to say keep going equal false because I don't want to keep going, and I'm going to return, which just means get the heck out of here. All right, now I'm going to run this twice. I'm going to run it the first time, and I'm not going to put anything in there for the first name. And I should get this message with this title, with this, I want that to be okay, not yes, no. With that button and with that icon, but I don't want that to be question. I want that to be error. It reverted back to the default values. So for this exit program, oh, wait a minute, this was correct. I'm in the wrong place. That's correct. All right, down here, there we go. Let's just try it and you can see it. So I'm leaving the first name empty and I'm clicking calculate. No first name input. You must enter a first name. All right, and I should have put my focus right there and I didn't. We'll do that right now. So txt first name dot focus. So that's where my cursor should go now. Again, I'm going to leave it blank on purpose, and my cursor should go there when I click. There we go. All right. So what are we doing here? Check for no first name inputted. All right, then what am I going to do next? Guess what? Pretty much the same thing, but for last name. So if I get down to here, there had to have been a first name. Otherwise, I've returned already. All right, there was a first name inputted. Check for no last name inputted. So if txt last name, you must enter a last name, no last name input, txt last name, etc. So I'm doing the same thing. So file, save all. Now you already saw it for the first name, so I will put my name in there, but I'm going to leave the last name empty. No last name input. You must enter a last name, and there's my cursor. All right. So if I get down to here, okay, technically the way I'm writing this right now, I don't even need this keep going that you see in here. All right, so I'm going to get rid of it. We're going to be using it, but later on. So if we get down to here, we know there was a first name inputted. We also know there was a last name inputted. All right, so now we want to check for hours worked. All right, so we're checking for that. All we're going to do is, for now, is to just check if there is an hours worked in there or not. That's all we're going to check for. We're not going to see if it's valid, if it's within range. We're just checking that. So again, very similar to what we've already had. If txt hours worked dot text is empty, we want to give a message that says you must enter an hours worked. We can be nice and let them know it should be between 0 and 84. All right, so no hours worked input. txt hours worked. Okay. And let's just write the other one because it'll be pretty much the same thing. So if we get down to here, there was an hours worked inputted. Check for hourly rate. All right, so this will be hourly rate. And that was between 0 and 99.99. All right. Finally, if we get down to here, all of them were input. Okay, so we know there was a first name, there was a last name, there was an hours worked, there was an hourly rate inputted. calculate gross pay as hours times rate. All right, we know that this worked. There was an hours worked in there, so we're going to say hours worked. Did we copy in those variables? Hours. So we're going to say hours equal txt hours worked dot text, but we have to convert it. Convert dot to decimal our hours worked. And here we'll want to do a similar thing, but we'll want to say rate equals convert dot to decimal txt hourly rate dot text. All right, why? So now we can say gross pay, not even LBL, just we want to say here, do we call it gross? Yes, we did. So gross equal hours times rate. txt gross pay dot text equals gross dot to string, and we'll make that currency. It should be our whole program unless I missed something. So let's run the whole thing just so you see it. File, save all. All right, I'm going to leave this empty. And I must have put in a first name, so Jane. Okay, must put in a last name, Doe. Must put in hours worked. Now it's blowing up because it's still trying to come in here and do this. All right. Now, if it's equal to that, I don't want to convert it. So I made a mistake here. All right. I can come in here and say else, and now put in this conversion and return. So what I should have done, and that is what I did not do. So let's do the same thing down here, because it's going to blow up otherwise down here as well. And return. Okay, hopefully now I've fixed everything. So run it again. All right, if there's nothing in there, must enter a first name, and boom. So Jane. Okay, there's no last name, so Doe. There's no hours worked. Let's put in 40. Okay, something is screwed up. Getting all this unreachable code here, so let's see. Ah, it is unreachable. So let's see. We don't want to return right there. Or there. There we go. Let's try it again. Okay, if we leave that blank, must enter a first name, Jane. Run it again. Must enter a last name, Doe. All right. You must enter an hours worked, 40. You must enter an hourly rate. Don't worry, it already did the gross pay. Will be fixed in a minute. So I shouldn't have done that, but that's okay. So this right here will be 25. And now if I click calculate, okay, it doesn't like that. This is why we test. So I'm going to clear everything. It's all cleared out, and I'm going to exit. So let's see why it didn't work. All right, I put the word return there, which again Shouldn't have been put there. Okay. Let's try it one more time. Let's put in valid stuff. So we'll put in here Mary Jones. She worked 35 hours and she makes $20 an hour. $700. All right. And our clear works. And our exit works. So let's go over the entire program. All right. Same comment I put in here before, but we're not using these constants. All right. So we're not using these. We will in later chapters, promise. All right. So first name, last name, it says that we're never using those values. Technically, that isn't true. All right. And I believe, let's see, if we remove this, yeah, sometimes those errors, those warnings will go away, but they didn't there. So, all right. So if txt first name dot text, technically we don't need a first name and a last name. They're whatever is in the text box. That's what it's telling us. So if there's nothing in the text box, we show them a message saying there was not, you must enter a first name with a title of first name input. It will also have an OK button and an error icon. All right, and then we'll return. If we get down to here, there was a first name. So if we get down to here, there was a first name, so we check to see if there's a last name. If that's empty, we give them an error message with that heading. We set the focus to that field and we return because they're both empty. If we get down to here, there was a first name, there was a last name. So we check to see if there's anything in the hours worked. If that's empty, we give them this message with that heading. We set the focus and we return. Otherwise, there was something in there. So we attempt to convert it to a decimal number, whatever we put into that text box, and we put it into hours. That will break if I leave it blank, or if it'll catch it if there was nothing in there. But if I put something non-numeric in there, the program will break. So if I run this and put in here, it's going to break because I'm trying to convert something to a number, and it says whatever you try to convert to a number wasn't numeric. All right. Then we do the same thing with the hourly rate. If there's nothing in there, we give it this message with that heading. All right. And we set the focus. All right. Now, if there was nothing in there, I really should be returning right here, I believe. Otherwise, we set the rate. If we get down to the bottom, there was something in each field. So we figure out the gross and print that out, and our other values were already in there. When we call clear the form, we're clearing out each of the 5 text boxes, and we're setting the focus to the first text box. When we click exit, we're calling exit program or not, which is basically asking the user if he or she or he, wants to exit the program, and if they do, we exit. This is our program that will write a message, and it'll have a title on it. It'll have an OK button, and we're assuming these are all error messages. Now, let's check one last thing here. All right, I'm going to put something, and I'm going to leave that blank. Good. That's exactly what should happen. Okay, good. Everything is working. Let's do a little bit of cleanup work here. What do I mean? Well, let's go back to here. Let's click over here. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. All right, but it lets me show you something. I don't want to just remove this. When you accidentally bring up something like this, you don't just remove it like that. Instead, you come back in here and you click this lightning bolt and you find where it says that. That's right here. you highlight all of it, and you remove it that way. Now what you'll notice is it's not in there anymore. All right, you'll all forget that, so I'm going to remind you of it many times throughout the semester. All right, let's see. So let's go back into here. Let's click on the form. Let's go over to, go back to here, to Windows Start Position. I want that to be center screen. All right, I want to go and set my Accept button. I want to set that to BTN Calculate. I want to set my Cancel button to BTN Clear. All right, and that should help do most of the stuff I wanted to do. So let's do a file save all here. Let's run it. Let me go over to here and let's run it. And there it is in the center of the screen. Again, Bill Smith worked 40 hours, makes $10 an hour, $400. Everything is working. Good deal. All right, so that one is done, and I think I've explained it. Hopefully I've explained it to your satisfaction. All right, so let's go back into the book now. We are already at over an hour, so I'm going to stop this, and I'm going to call this Payroll App Chapter 4. All right,